Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Battles in American Civil War, with your host Bang and Dang. Continuing on from our first Battle of Petersburg, we now have the Second Battle of Petersburg. We start this one off, which leads directly into the Siege of Petersburg, which lasts until April of 1865. So they're going to be sieged around Petersburg. If you recall, we'll get into it a little bit here. They sieged Petersburg, where all the railroads connect to Richmond, and Richmond is pretty much fallen. So, yeah. Let's just say here, too, that Lee's a moron, because he's an idiot, and the Union's a bunch of idiots. The war could have been over with literally this battle right here. You'll see why.
the war could have been over with 2 years ago.
Well, right, but definitely with this battle here. But they're idiots. The one general, I forget who it was, Butler, I think it was, idiot. And then we only got two battles for today. Our second one's going to be the Battle of Lynchburg.
Once the Union got a hold of Mississippi and half of Louisiana, it was over.
Well, you could argue New Orleans,
Right.
the port, and then Vicksburg for sure.
Right.
With that, go check out our YouTube at Bang Dang Network, shorts, clips, full episodes, and our YouTube exclusive Dart League, as well as our Discord. The link things in the description, and Spotify, Apple. Give us a review, share us with your friends, and answer that Spotify question. Starting out first, Second Battle of Petersburg, also known as the Assault on Petersburg, fought June 15th to the 18th, 1864, which was the beginning of the Richmond-Petersburg campaign, popularly known as the Siege of Pittsburgh.
Right.
And, of course, it's obviously Grant and Meade attempted to capture Petersburg, Virginia, before Robert E. Lee could reinforce the city. The first Battle of Petersburg occurred June 9th. Major General Benjamin Butler dispatched 4,500 troops from his Army of the James in the Bermuda Hundred area and assaulted the Dimmock Line, which was the outer line of the earthworks protecting Petersburg. The Confederates, under the overall command of General P.G.T. Beauregard, numbered 2,500, many of whom were teenage boys and elderly men. If you remember that battle from last week, they called it the Battle of Men and Boys or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Boys to men.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, timid leadership on part of the Union, Major General Quincy Gilmore and Brigadier General Auguste Coltz led to the failure of this assault, squandering a prime opportunity to seize lightly defended Petersburg. Butler's...
How many times have that phrase has been uttered by the
Union
regarding the Union failure of the assault, squandering a prime opportunity?
Especially when McClellan was running the show. Butler's men then returned to their positions in the Bermuda Hundred. After the Battle of Cold Harbor and Lieutenant General Grant's 1864 overland campaign, the Union Army of the Potomac slipped away from General Lee and began crossing the James River. Although the overland campaign's objective had been to defeat Lee's Army of the Northern Virginia in a decisive battle, President Grant changed his objective to be the city of Petersburg, which was an important rail junction that controlled the supplies leading to the old rebel capital of Richmond.
Yes, sir. Grant knew that Lee could not protect Richmond if Petersburg fell, and he would be forced to battle Grant in the open, which Grant obviously would be favored in. He also knew that from the unsuccessful first assaults on June 9th, how weak the Petersburg defenses actually were. Speed was essential to Grant's plan, requiring success before Lee realized Grant's objective and could reinforce Petersburg. Lee was not, in fact, fully cognizant of Grant's moves until June 18th. Remember, this started on June 15th, so talking about an opportunity lost. Until then, he assumed that Grant would target Richmond. Beauregard, however, had been loudly warning of the danger to Petersburg since June 9th. He's like, dude, we have nobody here. You understand this is where all our supplies come in? And Lee's like, nonsense, old chap. He's coming for Richmond.
Lee don't know what's going on right now.
He's just an idiot. Ever since his
he lost Jeb.
Dysentery when he was shitting his pants. He's just been an idiot.
And he lost Jeb and Stonewall.
And Grumble Jones. And
nobody left.
Yeah. And what's his name? Polk. He's lost four
Polk.
of his major guys already.
So all he got is him and Beauregard and...
what's his name? He's injured right now, but Longstreet.
And you got Bragg's ass, but he ain't doing nothing.
Bragg, I think, is he's
like
the advisor guy.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, General Grant selected Butler's Army of the James, which had performed poorly in the Bermuda Hunter campaign. Mm-hmm. He's like, you know what? You're going to lead an expedition toward Petersburg, bud, to redeem yourself. 14th of June, he directed Butler to augment the 18th Corps, commanded by Brigadier General William Baldy Smith, to a strength of 16,000 men, including Kautz's cavalry division, and use the same route employed in the unsuccessful attacks of the 9th of June. He's like, we'll just go to the same exact way. Let's rewrite this wrong.
Well, now we know how weak these guys are. We can do some shit.
The 2nd Corps of the Army of the Potomac, commanded by Major General Winfield Hancock, would follow Smith. Grant, he wrote in his post-war memoirs, I believe then, and I still believe, that Petersburg could have easily been captured at that time.
I'm sure it would have. One advantage for the Confederates was the strength of the Dimmock Line, formidable artillery positions connected by earthworks.
Yeah, we seen that the last episode.
Right. This stretches for over 10 miles, circling the city and anchored on the Appomattox River to the east and west. The river bend?
Probably.
Right?
All rivers do.
Well, like a horseshoe shape? I think it was the horseshoe thing that they had going on.
Right.
Since Beauregard had insufficient men available to defend the entire line, he concentrated 2,200 troops under Brigadier General Henry Wise in the northeastern section.
How do you not have more men right there?
It's because Lee didn't believe him. Between Redan No. 1 on the Appomattox River and Redan No. 23, protecting the Norfolk and Petersburg Railroad to the southeast. That's where his 22 troops.
Nothing. That's nothing. They can easily get routed by anybody.
Even with this concentration, infantrymen were spaced 10 feet apart. Holy shit. His remaining 3,200 men were facing Butler's army at Bermuda 100. 10 feet apart between each man, that's a hell of a gap, dude.
Right.
Wow.
Hella gap. You take 2 or 3 out of that line, you got a 40-foot gap.
Right.
Man. 15th of June, Baldy Smith and his men crossed the Appomattox shortly after dawn on the north end. On June 15th. His force consisted of the infantry divisions of Brigadier Generals William Brooks, John Martindale, and Edward Hanks. And he also had a cavalry division of Brigadier General August Kautz with him. Transport vessels delivered these divisions almost at random to landing sites on the opposite shore, confusing Smith's plan and wasting time reorganizing. He's like, what the freak?
What are these guys doing?
Kautz's cavalry division was ordered to clear the line in advance for the infantry. Brooks and Martindale would march down the City Point Railroad, and Hanks' U.S. colored troops, they would approach on the Jordan Point Road. All right.
Well, unfortunately for them, delays in the advance continued after they landed.
I'll bet.
The cavalry encountered an unexpected stronghold at Baylor's Farm northeast of Petersburg.
All right.
Hanks' men launched 2 attacks on the Confederates and captured a cannon, but the overall advance was delayed until early afternoon.
No.
Smith performed a reconnaissance and, despite his sense of nervousness about the strengths of the enemy, planned to carry the defensive works with a strong skirmish line.
Well, no shit.
He was delayed again when his artillery commander allowed all of the horses to be watered simultaneously. Jeez, making it impossible to bring up his guns until 7 p.m. Like, sorry, all of our horses are they're drinking right now. Right. Sorry.
And you're not stopping.
Right.
Well, Smith was delaying. Kautz reached the railroad near Redan, number 20, on the right flank of the Confederate line around noon. Approximately 600 rebels under Brigadier General James Deering, they bombarded Kautz with artillery, and the Union cavalrymen got no closer than 500 yards. Wow. That's pretty far. In a manner similar to the 9th of June battle, Kautz listened for evidence that Smith was attacking to his right. Guess what happened last time? He didn't hear any. This time, too, none. So he gave up. Back to the line.
Mm-hmm. When Smith finally started his attack, his skirmishers swept over the earthworks on a 3.5-mile front, capturing batteries 3 and 5 through 11. Wow. Causing the Confederates to retreat to a weaker defensive line on Harrison's Creek. Despite this initial success and the prospect of a virtually undefended city immediately to his front, Smith decided to wait until dawn to resume his attack.
Oh, no.
By this time, Winfield Hancock had arrived at Smith's headquarters. The normally decisive and pugnacious Hancock, who outranked Smith, was uncertain of his orders and the disposition of his forces, and uncharacteristically deferred to Smith's judgment to wait.
Right.
Oh, wow. Why is he being such a puss?
And you think Smith would be like, well, wait a minute here.
Aren't you?
I thought for sure you were going to be on my side.
Right.
Damn. Smith's timid service on the 15th of June would turn out to be his last combat command. Butler indirectly called Smith a procrastinator, and the dispute escalated to Grant. He was like,
Well, it's made its way all the way up to the big guy.
This dude has been saying he's going to tie his shoe for the last 3 weeks.
And it's still, I told him he was going to trip.
I'll get to it. Although Grant originally contemplated replacing Butler by Smith,
Jeez.
As commander of the Army of the James, he eventually retained Butler and reassigned Smith to New York. And he goes, go to New York. If we need you, we'll get a hold of you. Just wait there. And which were never issued. Orders were never issued for this guy.
And he's like, go sit in New York, bud.
Well, I guess you're getting paid to do nothing in New York. Beauregard, he wrote later that Petersburg at the hour was clearly at the mercy of the federal commander, who had all but captured it. Wow. He was like, dude, they got us. And they just like, all right. From delaying this, he used that time for good advantage, supposedly. I don't know how.
All right, well, we'll see, won't we? Receiving no guidance from Richmond in response to his urgent request, he unilaterally decided to strip his defenses from the Howlett Line, which was bottling up Butler's army in Bermuda 100, making the divisions of Major Generals Robert Hoke and Bushrod Johnson available for the new Petersburg defensive line.
I would say that's the best move to go there.
And well, Butler might have used this opportunity to move his army between Petersburg and Richmond, which would have doomed the Confederate capital, but he once again failed to act.
Dude, Beauregard was like, check this shit out. You can easily get here if I do this. Now I think we're gonna stick.
We'll be all right.
We're gonna stick with Petersburg.
Stupid.
By the morning of 16th of June, Beauregard had concentrated about 14,000 men in his defensive line. But this paled in comparison to the 50,000 old bluecoats that now were facing directly in front of him. Grant had arrived with Major General Ambrose Burnside's 9th Corps, addressed the confusion of Hancock's orders, and he also ordered a reconnaissance for weak points in the defensive line. Go check out, find me that weak point. Hancock in temporary command of the Army of Potomac until Major General Meade arrived. There it is. So Hancock was like, all right, Smith, your little 18th Corps, go on the right. And I'm going to put my corps, the 2nd Corps, in the center. And then Burnside, your 9th Corps, go over to the left. Look at that guy just shouting orders.
Oh, look at him. Hancock's assault began around, this is the same guy that didn't want to do shit to June 15th, though. But Hancock's assault began around 5:30 p.m. as all 3 corps moved slowly forward.
Hey.
Beauregard's men fought fiercely, erecting new breastworks to the rear as breakthroughs occurred.
Oh, shit.
Upon the arrival of General Meade, a second attack was ordered, and Brigadier General Francis Barlow led his division against Redan's 13, 14, and 15. Confederate artillery fire caused significant Union casualties, including the death of Colonel Patrick Kelly, who was commander of the famous Irish Brigade.
Got a colonel, huh?
Although Barlow's men managed to capture their objectives, a counterattack drove them back, taking numerous Union prisoners with them. The survivors dug in close to the enemy works now.
Oh, shit. Going on to the 17th of June, battle raging. 17th of June, though, was a day of uncoordinated Union attacks, starting on the left flank, where 2 brigades of Burnside's 9th Corps under Brigadier General Robert Potter, they stealthily approached the old rebel line and launched a surprise attack at dawn. Cock-a-doodle-doo, motherfuckers. Right? Initially...
Instead of I'm your Huckleberry, I'm your rooster.
Initially successful, it captured nearly a mile of the Confederate fortifications.
Damn.
600 prisoners as well. But the effort eventually failed when Potter's men moved forward to find another line of entrenchments. Though mobility was limited because of the tangled logs in the ravine behind them, and old rebel guns were able to strike them with enfilade fire. 2 p.m., 9th Corps launched a second attack, led by a brigade of Brigadier General John Hartranft. Hartranft.
They were somehow...
Could be Hartranft. The F could be silent.
I doubt it.
Or the T silent. Hartranft.
Well, they were somehow sent forward at a right angle to the Confederate line, which left them vulnerable to enfilade and fire. Ooh. In the evening, Brigadier General James Ledley's division also failed in its assault, during which Ledley was observed to be drunk,
of course,
which ended up being a behavioral pattern that would repeat itself notoriously at the upcoming Battle of the Crater. In a letter to his wife on June 17th, Major General George Meade wrote, "We find the enemy, as usual, in a very strong position, defended by earthworks, and it looks very much as if we will have to go through a siege of Petersburg before entering on the siege of Richmond. Well, it is all in the cruise, as the sailors say."
Oh, good for you.
We're just going with the motions. Pretty much, right?
Going with the flow, baby.
Do you think it's smart to be writing letters to your family members and your wife and shit? What if they get intercepted?
Better hope not. During the day of 17th of June, Beauregard's engineers, they laid out new defensive positions about a mile to the west of the Dimmock Line, running along a creek named Taylor's Branch. And that creek led to the Appomattox. Later that very night, the old rebels pulled back to their new position. Beauregard, he expressed his frustration with the lack of support or concern from Robert E. Lee. When he write, he writes in his little memoir after the war, and it says this: "The Army of the Northern Virginia was yet far distant, and I had failed to convince its distinguished commander of the fact that I was then fighting Grant's whole army with less than 11,000 men."
So he's saying, I've told this guy 1,000 times that Grant's whole army is right here in front of me, and this dude's just like, nah, he's going to Richmond.
And Lee's like, he don't want to fight you. He wants to fight me.
Nonsense.
Nonsense.
Well, Lee had systematically ignored all of Beauregard's pleas, and it was not until his own son, Cavalry Major General W.H.F. Rooney Lee, had verified Grant's movements across the river.
Duh.
What a bitch. Then he acknowledged the current perilous situation at Petersburg.
Oh, he's like, oh my gosh. Why did I know this?
Right. He immediately dispatched two divisions of his men, exhausted from the overland campaign already. He said, go to Petersburg beginning at 3 a.m.
That's what he did. He's like, who's the weakest regiments?
Right.
Send them out.
It was smart.
Send them out. No rations. They'll be there in enough time, right? 18th of June, with the arrival of Lee's 2 Division under Major General Joseph Kershaw and Charles W. Field, Beauregard had over 20,000 men to defend the city. But old Grant's force had been augmented by the arrival of Major General Gouverneur Warren's 5th Corps, and 67,000 Federales were there to fight. The first Union attack began at dawn. Again, cock-a-doodle-doo, motherfuckers. Started by the 2nd and the 18th Corps on the Union right. Hancock, he began to suffer effects from his lingering Gettysburg wound, and he turned over command of the 2nd Corps to Major General David B. Birney.
Yeah, the men of the 2nd Corps were surprised to make rapid progress against the Confederate line, not realizing that Beauregard had moved it back the night before.
Oh, jeez.
What the hell?
What the hell?
When they encountered the 2nd line, the attack immediately ground to a halt, and the Corps suffered under heavy Confederate fire for hours. Wow. By noon, the 9th and 5th Corps, which had a longer distance to march to join the attack, came up alongside the 2nd Corps. Major General Orlando B. Wilcox's division of the 9th Corps led a renewed attack, but it suffered significant losses in the marsh and open fields crossed by Taylor's branch. Wilcox's division emerged with only 1,000 men standing. Holy shit.
Damn. Warren's 5th Corps was halted by a murderous fire from Rives' salient, also known as the Battery 27, the position where the Dimmock Line crossed the Jerusalem Plank Road. Present-day United States Route 301 is when this happened. An attack in which Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, haven't seen him since Gettysburg.
I don't think of any other Chamberlain.
Commanding the 1st Brigade, 1st Division, 5th Corps,
dead.
was severely wounded. Oh, Joshua Chamberlain. Oh, yeah, this is a different one.
Right.
Chamberlain was wounded severely. His wound was believed to be mortal, and Chamberlain was granted a battlefield promotion to Brigadier General by General Grant.
Okay, believed to be mortal, so was it? He died in 1871, or he died in 1914, so it was by far from mortal.
6:30 p.m., Meade ordered a final assault, which also failed with more horrendous loss. Damn.
Jeez. One of the leading regiments was the 1st Maine Heavy Artillery Regiment, 900 men that had been converted from essentially garrison duty, man and artillery, to be infantrymen at the start of the overland campaign.
All right.
The regiment quickly lost 332 men in the assault, the heaviest single battle loss of any regiment during the entire war.
No shit.
Dude.
Damn.
Come on.
We keep on breaking records every show.
I know, dude. Like, what the fuck?
Wow.
It's all done by Grant. Grant, no wonder why he was gaining the reputation of being the butcher.
Right.
He was just getting his shit killed.
It is a source of great regret that I am not able to report more success. Major General George Meade, report to General Grant, June 18th. He's like, I'm sorry, bud. I did everything I'm
trying. Well, not really, but...
Well, Meade, having achieved almost no gains from 4 days of assaults, he ordered his army to dig in.
Yep, time to siege this motherfucker. Go.
Union casualties, 11,386, 1,688 murdered, 8,513 wounded, and 1,185 missing or captured. The old Rebs, they lost 4,000 with 200 killed. 2,900 wounded and 900 missing or captured.
Dude, you had 3 times the force of these fucking guys, and they did 3 times the murders.
That artillery.
Actually, they did 12 times the murders of these guys.
That artillery.
It's ridiculous.
We've seen what that does.
Well, Grant's opportunity to take Petersburg easily had been lost, but Lee, who arrived at Petersburg around noon June 18th, was unable to prevent the Union Army from laying siege to the city.
Ooh.
This siege would last until April 1865.
Right. He's like, damn, they're already hunkered down. There ain't no way we can drive them out.
Nope. The Petersburg National Battlefield covers only part of the battlegrounds around Petersburg. American Battlefield Trust and its partners have preserved 131 additional acres through mid-2023. So look at them.
Fantastic.
Still acquiring shit. It's fucking 200 and something years later.
So the Union fumbling again to close this war out with terrible, terrible, terrible leadership.
Yep. Well,
and with the confused Lee, who's so dehydrated right now that he don't even know how to lead his own army.
Sad, man. This shit
done. They should have routed these motherfuckers.
If Butler would have moved in between Richmond and Petersburg that first day, that would have been the war would have been literally over. Dude.
Over.
Dumb.
Well, that means we have to continue on to another battle, which is the Battle of Lynchburg.
Well, going on at the same time, yeah.
Yep, between 17 and 18 June 1864, 2 miles outside of Lynchburg, Virginia. United States Army of the Western Virginia under David Hunter, Major General David Hunter, attempted to capture the city of Confederate Lieutenant General Jubal Early. Jubal Early is there defending Lynchburg.
Yeah,
good for you, Early. Lynchburg was used as a supply and hospital center during the Civil War. There was also a connection in the railroad that supplied the old rebel army. It was for this reason that Hunter determined to capture this. In accordance with the plan formulated by Brigadier General William Averill, the infantry divisions of Brigadier General George Crook and Jeremiah Sullivan, they proceeded south from Staunton on 10th of June, alongside Averill's cavalry division. Fantastic. They got themselves a nice little plan. Well, the Union had a nice little plan for Petersburg and failed to...
Well, they also have a nice little plan here, but however, Hunter had 2 major problems. He was supposed to receive help from Major General Philip Sheridan, who never showed up because he had suffered a major setback at the Battle of Trevilian Station from our last episode, and was forced to retreat to an area around Richmond and Petersburg.
Oh, wow.
The other, perhaps more important issue, was that Hunter's supply lines were being harassed by the 43rd Battalion Virginia Cavalry under Lieutenant Colonel John Mosby.
All right.
Between the 20th of May and June 17th, only 1 supply wagon had reached Hunter.
Oh, that's not good.
Jeez, dude. 20th of it took a whole month and only 1 supply wagon? Wow.
And that shit was gone within seconds.
Right.
Damn. At Lexington on 11th of June, Hunter, he fought with the old rebel cavalry under Brigadier General John McCausland, who withdrew to Buchanan. Hunter, he ordered Colonel Alfred Duffy to join him in Lexington with his cavalry division. While waiting, Hunter burned the Virginia Military Institute and the home of John Letcher, former governor of Virginia.
Nice.
After being joined by Duffy on the 13th of June, Hunter sent Averill to drive McCausland out of Buchanan and capture the bridge that was across the James River. But McCausland burned the bridge and fled the town.
He said, you won't capture it, I'll burn it.
Right.
Nobody can have it, or if I can't have it, nobody can.
Nobody. Hunter joined Averill and Buchanan the following day before advancing via the road between the Peaks of Otter on June 15th. His cavalry occupied Liberty that very evening. Got fucked up. Probably got some pussy.
Maybe. Meanwhile, Major General John Breckinridge, I forgot about Breckinridge, sent Brigadier General John M. Bowden and his cavalry to join McCausland. Breckinridge arrived in Lynchburg the next day. Major General Daniel Harvey Hill, Brigadier General...
Another Hill? Nice.
And Brigadier General Harry T. Hayes.
Damn, this was a major general. Where did he come from?
He's been there, I think.
Daniel Harvey? I don't think so.
Daniel Harvey Hill, did he just get promoted?
And he just came out of nowhere.
Well, he fought in the Mexican-American War and then was battled at Big Bethel, Seven Pines, Days Battle, South Mountain, Antietam,
Really?
Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, Chickamauga, and Bentonville, yeah.
Really?
He'd been there.
Really?
He'd been there.
Oh, wow.
Major General Daniel Harvey Hill and Brigadier General Harry T. Hayes constructed a defensive line in the hills just southwest of the city. That afternoon, McCausland fell back to New London and skirmished with Averill's cavalry, which pursued him.
Right.
Union forces launched another attack on McCausland and in Bowden that evening. The Confederates retreated from New London.
Oh. Damn. Jubal Early arrived in Lynchburg at about 1 o'clock on the 17th of June, having been sent by Robert E. Lee. 3 hours later, Averill encountered McCausland's and Bowden's dismounted cavalry entrenched at Quaker Meeting House, 4 miles from the city.
What do you think goes on there? Meeting of the Quakers?
Right. The old Rebs were driven back after Colonel Carr B. White's brigade. They moved in and to support Averill. 2 brigades of Major General Stephen Dotson Ramseur's division, they occupied the area around a redoubt about 2 miles from the city that hindered the Union advance. Yeah. They're like, man, come on, man. Can't you make it easy on us?
Well, now Hunter made Sandusky his headquarters and planned the attack on Early's defenses. That night, trains could be heard moving up and down the tracks. Also, various
Just that night.
various instruments such as bugles and drums were heard by Hunter's troops as well. Even the people of Lynchburg made noise by having bands play and citizens scream. Their goal was to make the Confederate army seem much larger than it was. Nice. Yeah, they're like, we want as much movement as possible.
Right. Let's get to moving. 18th of June, Major Generals Arnold Elsley and Robert Ransom Jr., they arrived from the old Confederate capital of Richmond. Elsley assumed command of Breckinridge's infantry and dismounted cavalry, while Ransom superseded in Bowden as commander of the mountain cavalry. Damn, dude, these
two motherfuckers just came in and said, all right, boys.
Like, who's in charge here?
It's like the state police showing up to a crime scene or something.
Who's in charge here? Yeah, give me your saber.
Or the FBI coming in like, this is our crime scene now, buddies.
Right. You guys are done. Early elected to remain defensive and wait for the rest of the Second Corps to arrive. The redoubt, now known as Fort Early, was at the center of the Confederate line, with Major General John Brown Gordon's division on the left and Brigadier General William G. Lewis's brigade on that very right.
McCausland commanded the right flank, which included a redoubt, and Elsley's command defended the area between it and Lewis's brigade.
Fantastic.
Colonel Scott Shipp's VMI cadets were placed in reserve at Spring Hill Cemetery, while the inner defenses were occupied by the Confederate Home Guard.
Look at these sons of bitches coming in and just reorganizing everything.
Right. Hunter, still not convinced that Lee had sent reinforcements to Lynchburg, idiots, dude, deployed Sullivan's and Crook's divisions in front of the Confederate center with Averill in reserve, and sent an order to Duffy to attack the Confederate right.
Fantastic.
What is it with these guys not being convinced?
Right.
You guys send somebody to look.
Why would they reinforce? Come on.
Dumb, man.
It's like we're in a war or something.
Right.
Reconnoitering the line in an effort to find a weak spot to push his infantry through, Hunter ruled out a direct attack on the redoubts, for they appeared too strong. He allowed Lieutenant Colonel Henry A. DuPont to deploy his 32 cannons. Ooh, got some cannon fire. Crook, he was sent to flank the Confederate left, but marched a few miles before finding it impractical. The old rebels attacked Sullivan and DuPont, who managed to hold them at bay until Crook returned. The old rebels fell back after a half-hour fighting, but spent the next hour and 20 minutes attempting to break through the gap between Sullivan and Duffy before withdrawing to the earthworks. A regiment of Colonel Rutherford B. Hayes' brigade, right? Hay pursued them, but they were beaten back.
Meanwhile, McCausland succeeded in holding off Duffy's assaults. As ammunition ran short, both Hunter and Duffy became convinced they were outnumbered. Early then prepared to begin an attack of his own, but Hunter retreated at nightfall. Early's army moved 60 miles in 3 days. Damn. At that point, Early called off the pursuit and waited for Hunter to make a move. Hunter decided to move across the Shenandoah Valley and into West Virginia. Hunter's retreat made it possible for Early to move up the Shenandoah Valley freely, which Early's army then advanced up through Maryland, defeated a Union force at the Battle of Monocacy, and reached the outskirts of Washington, D.C. before being halted at the Battle of Fort Stevens, which is the closest the capital of Washington had been come to ever, yes. And, of course, both of those battles will have coming up later on in the year of 1864, I believe.
So we got a little rebrand of the old rebels here, bringing in new blood.
Well, Ransom's been at a few battles.
And
this Elsie guy, I don't think we've even heard from.
Right.
I don't think he did shit.
No.
1862 was in the Valley Campaign with Stonewall. He was wounded in his leg and his horse shot from under him.
That's what I remember. He got shot in the
head.
Shot
through the head at the Gaines Mill. That's
I remember
right.
that.
Yeah. But he came back and was like, bitches.
Check this shit out.
He died in 1871, though. It was good for him. Imagine being a Confederate guy in the years afterwards.
I don't think it's been too bad.
Of course it was. If you go to the North or if the South, actually nobody wants you because you're North fighting against them. You go back to the South, you're a failure. Right. So what are you going to do? He was paroled in May of 1865. He returned to his native Maryland. Oh, and he went to Maryland?
No.
And he went to a small farm where he died in Baltimore and was buried. Okay. And that's going to do it for us in these battles of Lynchburg and Second Petersburg as we we dig in for the siege of Petersburg. And dig in for the rest of this war, pretty much.
Right.
Next week, we'll have the Battle of Cynthiana. Oh, no, we won't. We already did that, idiot. We'll have the Battle of Cherbourg, which is that little naval engagement in France.
Right.
We'll have the Battle of Jerusalem Plank Road.
Which is just down the road from where we're at now.
Mm-hmm. We'll have the Battle of Cobb's Farm and probably the Battle of St. Mary's Church. And,
the Union took a beating. Lost an A and 2 B battles. These past 3 battles.
Yep.
Wow.
But then it's nothing, and then Confederates, after the St. Mary's Church, Confederates rally off 5 straight wins there.
Yeah, worthless. Nothing wins.
Well, the Monocacy not is good because that's where Early goes to Washington. So
Right.
Isn't that a movie? Mr. Early goes to Washington.
Right. I think so.
And we'll see you next week. In the meantime, go check out our YouTube at Bang Dang Network, Discord link in the description, Spotify, Apple, give us a review, share us with your friends, answer that Spotify question, and back next week for some more battles of the American Civil War. We are the Mountain Michiganders with
Bang Dang.